we have a presentation by Simana from Bulgaria on discovering heritage interpretation from the other end. That will start immediately after. And then there will be a workshop from Vasilka. And it's already been, Christina reminded us, but I'll just give another reminder, please, if you're going to attend the workshop at 2:30, be sure to try and grab 2 lengths of red and white thread or wool or any other kind of material and some objects to attach. I'm not going to say any more, but it's a very hands-on experience and creative. That'll be followed by a presentation from our Greek friend Angeliki about recreating tourism on the Greek-Albanian border. And I'll be particularly interested in that because I cycled through that region just recently before COVID. And then we will finish, of course, with a thematic table from our friends at the Natural Heritage team, where we'll be able to imagine the most sustainable tour. So that's what we've got in store for you this afternoon. I shall hand over now to Alicia and Simana to present the rest, what follows for you. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Sandy. Welcome, everyone, and welcome, Simana. Simana is our first presenter in our afternoon block of presentations and workshop, which seems to be very inspiring, but I will not tell everything now, what is going to be done later. Simana will tell us a little bit about discovering heritage interpretation from the other end. So that's already sounds very interesting, so I can't wait to listen. I just would like to introduce Simana. She has been a sustainable tourism expert for nearly 25 years, promoting heritage interpretation in Bulgaria. And she is also Interpret Europe trainer for the Certified Interpretive Writing course. And Simana recently started the informal community of Interpret Bulgaria. So congratulations, Simana, for this work. And the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Thanks everybody who has joined this session and the conference as a whole. I was briefly introduced, although recently I've been thinking at some point you work to make your CV, and then when you say you have 25 years of experience, then it comes like, wow, how long have I been working? But the truth is, enthusiasm is all that matters. And today I have chosen to share with you a product of enthusiasm, a case study that was a product of enthusiasm. And I have decided to do this because when we, Interpret Europe, announced the topic, the theme for this year's conference, I started thinking about, well, interesting question, how we can recreate tourism. And it struck me that from my personal point of view, and I suspect very much from the points of view of all you guys attending this conference, all fans of heritage interpretation, very few things have changed recently. Even before COVID, for me, for us, for my organization that I have been working for these 25 years, the path towards the future of tourism has been all the same. And that's why I shall explain more at the end, but I shall share this case study from my region and my work with you. Let me share the screen. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Like usual. Okay, do you see my screen, guys? Or not?
Yes, we can. You can just start your presentation with the view.
I chose the wrong one.
Yes, play the presentation.
Sorry. Sorry, it's always like this. Share it again. Sorry. I think I chose the slideshow. Ah, there we are. Okay. Why discovering heritage interpretation from the other end? For most of us who are heritage interpretation fans, we have started probably from our love for heritage and from our greatest desire to share this love with as many people as possible, with as many communities as possible, with the visitors that of course are people, and we can share this love with, and make them see heritage how we see it, with love and care, but in their own way, of course. And so first has been heritage, its interpretation, its sharing, and then tourism. But in the case that I am presenting to you, it kind of came from the other end. It was vice versa. How about trying to help a local community in stagnation, more or less, find alternatives for their future, and making an evaluation of what their options hold, what their options may be, and then focusing on tourism and trying to find how to develop tourism better. Let us set the stage or the setting. The municipality and the region that our case study is located in is in the southwest corner of Bulgaria, the heart of the Balkans. You see it on the map, I've marked it. And sorry for the map of the municipality itself, it is in Cyrillic, in Bulgarian, but this is the best I could find. I seem to have lost my other maps. I have tried to put in Latin the particular villages and the town of Razlog, which is the municipal center. All these settlements have been part of the initiative. Probably you see from this map that some part of the territory of this municipality is located in a valley. Thanks, Sandy. Great if you find it a fine map. And the villages that are peripheral, let's say, slightly climb up a mountain. This is actually the Razlog Valley, which is between three mountains. You see two of them in Cyrillic, to the north Rila and to the southwest Pirin, which are both national parks. And a bit more about that later. The setting, as I said, rural municipality. Small villages, only one town, the municipal center, but it's not really a big town. So it's a rural area overall. And the livelihood traditionally was related and has been related to some agriculture and some animal breeding, some forestry, and during socialism, some heavy industry. So after restructuring, which happened so many years ago already, but still the consequences are visible in our society, the effects on the local communities in the area have been not so very favorable. We are talking about high rates of unemployment, around the middle and a bit up, a bit over of the middle for the country. We are talking about aging of population, with the young people moving away to bigger cities, the capital of Bulgaria to start with, but also emigrating. We are talking about a lack of knowledge and lack of skills to find alternatives, etc., etc. Many problems that are common for rural areas around Europe, in the former socialist bloc in particular, and especially such communities that are not located along, say, main highways that connect east to the west or something, that are not traditionally established as tourism resorts, for example. At the same time, the region has good potential. Oh, I love this this expression, the good potential. It is part of every municipality development strategy, but in our case, it does. It has a good potential. We always start with the national parks, and the one that is closer to our selected area of interest today is the Rila National Park. It is one of the 3 national parks in Bulgaria, the biggest one, the newest one, but very loved by all Bulgarians. You see just some glimpses of it, huge biodiversity, both as flora and as fauna, centuries-old forests. Many of them are being certified now to be centuries of forests of centuries-old trees of importance. And there are also a lot of species that are special, globally threatened, endemic, relic, etc., etc. Of course, the park is also important for its visitor facilities. There are trails that are maintained by the Directorate of the National Park, but they're mostly long hiking routes. There is cultural heritage, of course, some very special sites. I've chosen just highlight some points of interest, like, for example, 16th century old church, semi-dug into the ground because it dates back to the Ottoman rule in our lands, when churches were not allowed to be higher than the houses of the ruling nation in the Ottoman Empire, so they had to be semi-dug into the ground. This one, a National Monument of Culture, officially designated by our Ministry of Culture because of the special and rare murals that you see. Some people believe they use it as a tourist, how to say it, a tourist slogan, a tourist fairy tale, that in this church, Jesus Christ has been depicted in a rocket, which is not true, of course. This is the eye of truth, but still it works. Some other points of interest that can be used to find alternatives, other religious points of interest, like we see on the top right corner, not so old like the previous one, but still with interesting architecture and history behind them. Some ancient traces like this Roman, to the left, Roman oven for ceramics, found on top of one of the hills, showing that obviously there was life here even ages ago, and some already local initiatives, like the one in the middle, a horse riding base above one of the villages in the mountain already, that offer interesting therapy courses for children with special needs, being helped by riding lessons. Of course, other natural sites as well. The name of the region is Razlog Municipality. I have a question from Larissa. In southwest Bulgaria, yes, you can find it on maps and everything. And the welcome and the villages around the main town, the municipal center of Razlog. As I was saying, there are also other natural landmarks that can be used to build an alternative for the region, that are located around the villages outside of the boundaries of the national park, like this waterfall on the left photo, which can only be seen and photographed when there are no leaves on the trees, and that's why the photo is not very good. But when everything is green, you can't see it. All centuries-old trees that are surely, you see to the right, the home of legends, local stories. And there are mineral springs as well. A lot of things, guys, around, with some infrastructure around them, some modern, as you can see with the swimming pool, and some ancient, which is also connected to cultural heritage, since in one of the villages, there are not one, but two bathhouses dating to ancient times and the Middle Ages. Now, the actors in this play of ours in our case study, of course, I start with my organization, the Peer and Tourism Forum, although we are not the most important. But we are the ones, we were the ones leading the process. And for 25 years already, we have been the flagship of our region in terms of sustainable development through tourism and heritage interpretation, of course. Luckily enough, during the staging, there was a local association in one of the villages carrying its name, the Doborsko Association, which united some of the local people and served as the drive for the whole process. There are the local communities, of course, and they're in different color because they are the most important actor in the whole process, in the whole case study that I'm presenting. The local communities of all the villages and even some of the surrounding ones. The exact people, the direct beneficiaries, if I may use the project jargon, were selected through a democratic process where they had the opportunity to apply, explaining why they would like to participate in this process for finding alternatives, what their motives were, and how they saw themselves contributing, how they saw their role. Another very important actor, the Rila National Park Directorate, of course, since the region was bordering the national park, and we were all convinced it was the biggest tourist resource in the area. It was only natural that they would be involved. I see I have a question from Caro Marisar. Sorry, if I don't pronounce anybody's name correctly, please forgive me for this. I'm not sure how old is that tree. I think it was something about 600 years, the tree that I showed on the photo before. And back to our actors here, the most important newcomer in this list of actors was the Global Environment and Facility and its Small Grants Program. This is what the abbreviation stands for. They started operating in Bulgaria, and the local community was able to benefit from that. So it was a project, after all, funded from the Small Grants Program of JEF. The preparation for the whole program, of course, it was very important to start by reviewing, inventorizing, and assessing the available resources for an economic alternative with focus on tourism. This was done, actually everything that I am presenting was done by the local communities, by the direct project beneficiaries, the direct participants in the project, with the help of experts from my organization, the Rila National Park Directorate, and some external ones as well. So it was the local communities who made this inventory and re-evaluation of their resources. Of course, they got some training on tourism, on heritage interpretation. I believe it was the first such training in Bulgaria. And of course, with the help of experts from the National Park Directorate to recognize different plant species, which are important, what are the different regimes for use, etc., etc., and tourism marketing as well. Part of this was also a study visit as part of the training to other parts of Bulgaria where there were local communities a bit ahead of us in relation to tourism development, but not heritage interpretation. Then there were a number of meetings of the community, of the participants, to choose what we would be working with, which features, with which parts of the available resources we would choose to work with, and plan how to work with them. This was the choice. The local community chose two very special species. The one to the left, the Rila primrose, is a local endemic found only within the Rila National Park. And the other one is not so local, but very important because it is a threatened species, a globally endangered one. This is the capercaillie. Sorry, it's always difficult for me to pronounce it. The wood grouse is much easier. So these were the two flag species of the initiative. And what the local community, with our help, did was develop two trails within the Rila National Park. One of them was naturally the wood grouse trail. And here I have scanned for you the self-guided leaflet, the leaflet for people, for visitors to self-guide themselves. That was produced by the local community with our help for this trail. And you see there are stops on the way. There are some interpretive boards developed together with experts and artists, designers, etc. As I said, external specialists. And of course, there was a program of activities for involving the visitors, like, for example, a contest, who would be the first one to tell the difference between a young wood grouse and an adult wood grouse, because there are such differences. I will not go into too much detail here because this is not the focus of my presentation, but it was big fun. I must tell you, it was a big fun designing the trail, choosing the terrain, choosing the paths, existing paths, not cutting new ones, of course, in the national park, and designing a program of activities, testing the activities with the local community itself, and then searching for ways to make them better. Vida, can I answer in a second your question, because I see I don't have too much time. Let's finish first. And as usual, I'll promise if I can't answer all questions, I will later. Another trail, of course, dedicated to the Rila primrose, again in the Rila National Park, and again, very much like the wood grouse trail, with interpreted information and with activities meant for the visitors. What I missed to say was that part of the planning process that I showed the photos from, even before choosing the two flag species of this project, was that we shall rely heavily on heritage interpretation, which they were introduced to by external experts. And they decided that it was the best tool, set the best instrumentarium that they could use to develop tourism, because they were very much convinced that if they want to develop tourism, they must develop it properly. They also arranged a visitor center, themed one, visitor center dedicated to the wood grouse and the Rila primrose, for which they bargained with the local forestry. They were the owner of this building, and they bargained a deal to use the building for a long time ahead. Inside, there were, of course, some exhibits and some activities meant for the visitors to be involved. We were not discovering the warm water at the time, nor the wheel, because it was a first attempt. We decided that we can afford to use methods that are very well established and well proven in their efficiency, like puzzles, like children cutting pictures, assembling images of the Rila primrose or the wood grouse, painting the eggs of the wood grouse because they are different from the others, etc., etc. And we had an official event, of course. As I said, if we do tourism, we'll do it properly. Tourist events are the top of the ice cream, the cherry of the cake. So we did one. We made this official opening. On the left photo you see, this is not even 1/3 of the people who actually came. To the right you see the head of the national park, the head of the GEF Small Grants Program, the head of the local association, a lot of local people, all the participants, all happy and smiling. There was fair to go with the official opening of the center, with exhibition and the selling, real fair of local products, food and crafts. And there was, of course, an opening visit to the 2 new trails with some interesting transportation, as you can see to the right, of course, only to the border of the national park, not beyond that. And the media, not very good photo to the left, sorry, but this is what I got. The media were also very, very happy because we already discussed in the previous sessions that what they like most is content, right? We gave it to them. This is from the visit to the trails. And just looking at the time, the lessons learned from this. I am summarizing, of course. The first, that knowledge is power. Nothing could have been done if local communities were not empowered by knowledge about the value of their own heritage. It is so often that local people neglect the value of their own heritage. It's because it's their heritage, it has been there all their lives. How interesting could it be to other people? They underestimate it. This is very often, at least in my experience, working in Southwest Bulgarian rural local communities, empowered also by knowledge of how tourism should be developed, what visitors are looking for, customer care. This was a special training they had in customer care. And of course, heritage interpretation in its basics to be able to work with it. The second lesson, the community is only strong when they stand together and they work together. In this group, VIDA, that was selected by making an information campaign for the project, spreading application forms among them, having preliminary meetings to explain and present, and then waiting for everybody who wants to apply to be part of the project. We had teachers, we had young people who were students in the capital, for example, but were coming back to participate. We had school children, we had old grannies who make wonderful pastries. We had some of the women who are able to weave on old looms. We had even a lady who at the time was making blouses for a foreign factory, who were using Bulgaria as a source of labor, but all sorts of different people. And they were strong because they stood together. The local motor for development is crucial, another lesson. If it wasn't for the local association that I mentioned, communication would be very difficult because we as leaders were not based in the local community. And communication there is important on daily and sometimes nightly basis. The fourth lesson, heritage interpretation makes all the difference. And this was a lesson that the local community came up with because it gives the quality to a visitor experience. It gives the answer to the reason why a visitor should choose this region. It focuses on what people do between eating and sleeping, because usually when we talk about tourism, this is what we hear the hotel owners and we hear the catering owners, especially now in COVID cases, and it makes you stand out from the competition. And I believe, yes, I have a reminder here from Alicia that I'm almost at the end of my time. One last thing about the same old. Guys, how old do you think my example is, my case study is? Guess, make a guess. In the chat? You can't guess.
Thank you, Simana. I think we have time for short questions.
But yeah. Sorry, can I just answer, because I asked the question and I have some answers, Guy. This example is from 2006, and this is why I chose it and why I say same old, because if I am to start such a project in another community here today, I would do exactly